Greetings, peasants. 'Tis I, King Pez. Now, today I have a very important thing to talk about. In fact, possibly one of the most important things. The origin of how all of this came to be. Or, more accurately, the origin of Pez. Now, I am going to answer all the questions that you peasants, spies, and those with the corners of power refuse to ask. How did it all start? Well, today we discover the history of Pez, or Peztory, if you will. Let's see. It all starts with this man, Edward Haas III, born in 1897 and died in 1989. His grandfather was a doctor and his father worked at a grocery store. Now, Haas experimented with this baking powder recipe that was given to him by his grandfather. In experimenting this, he invented these small tablets, and they made huge success in his father's store. So he decided he was going to work with a chemist to add a peppermint flavoring to them, thus making them a stronger flavor. Those eventually sold really well too. So he decided that he would expand the market just a little bit more, which is where he then came up with a great idea. This idea he would soon call PEZ, which is a shortened word for the German word for peppermint, which is hard to pronounce, so I'll just put it right here. And he just took the few letters from it and called it the PEZ. He marketed it as an anti-smoking device, for people would eat those instead of smoking. In those times, they were called PEZ drops, and they came in a round tube-like container, and you ate them as these circular tubes. That's when, after he invented those in 1927, shortly after creating all this stuff, he met this man, Oscar Uxa, or however you pronounce that. There are no pictures of him officially, but he and Haas worked together to find a way to make them feel like more of an anti-smoking product. So, Oscar invented a capsule in which you could easily dispense PEZs and eat them while carrying them around in your pocket, thus creating the very first PEZ dispenser. Back in those days, there was no head on these PEZ dispensers. They were simply to act as a lighter, but instead of lighting up a cigarette, you get a PEZ out of it, which is also simultaneously where PEZs went from being circular-shaped to square-shaped. Well, rectangular-shaped. Eventually, the popularity of these PEZs grew so great that he decided to expand the market and make them specifically for children, and instead of using the extremely strong peppermint flavoring, he decided to add some flavorful flavors here and there within the PEZs and marketed them towards children as well, which is also where he started to put faces on them. But we'll get to that in a moment. Because he decided that he was going to expand the market even greater, and in 1952, he expanded them to America. In America, he sold them specifically as the flavorful, colorful things, and the PEZ dispensers finally took their first shape as characters, as Santa Claus, a robot, and the PEZ gun. Those three were the first PEZ-themed things to go out there and be fun for Americans. It didn't catch on until a few years later on, but once it did, the market spread vastly, so much so that he needed to hire a team and work with an entire team on this PEZ distribution. To help with distribution, he set up a team of people which would be later known as PEZ Girls. These were a group of ladies who wore PEZ-themed uniforms and went around giving out PEZs to people and creating stores and facilities in which they would give out PEZs and sell them to everyone. then the popularity really started booming in these Pez's once everyone started seeing the shops all over the place, and once they started getting handed out in schools and things. Which then led to, in 1973, the Pez factory in America being built in Orange, Connecticut, which is still there to this day and is now a factory/museum for any and all things Pez's, which is somewhere I'm really waiting to go to but won't yet. Now, after all of these things happened and were created, the Pez popularity went through the roof and spread worldwide. Which brings us to the present day, more or less. The Pez industry has still boomed and gone on far past Edward Haas III's unfortunate death. Of course, his legacy still lives on with us. And now Pez's are spread everywhere, from the Pez factory to random history classes in Michigan. Who knows? All I know is that the Pez's are not gone, and that it took a lot to get them to this point, and it was all thanks to Edward Haas III. I'm afraid that's all I have for my Peztory lesson. I guess I'll just go back to the real world me and film the outro. Thank you, Peztory teacher, which was also me. Now, I'm sure there were some important pieces I missed here and there, a lot of things that I'm sure I didn't include, all of which, if I discover more, will be included in another Peztory episode. But I assure you, the Peztory is still coming. Of course, maybe not for a while. Until then, I would like all of you peasants to post in the comments below what videos you would like to see. Anything Pez related, any Pez questions, any Pez comments, all in the comments dispenser down below. I'm afraid that's all I have for you today, peasants. Goodbye.